Thank you, Rebbitzin, for that very generous introduction. I was thinking as I was hearing that we should send a copy of that to my mother. Sometimes, I don't know if anyone else has this, when my mom meets a nice young single lady and she'll pull out my picture and show that young lady, it'd be handy, to have a write-up to go along with it. Anyway, Mom and Dad Aiken are here today from Toronto. Thank you so much for making the trip. We welcome you. My big sister Dina is here. She's from South Florida and made the trip with her children, Owen, Haley, and Arabella. My brother-in-law, Dave, is a doctor, and they were asked to stay back so that the hospitals could be fully staffed. And so I know that I speak for all of us here when I say that our thoughts and prayers are with all of those affected by the storms, not just in Florida and the Caribbean. I know the rabbi's sister runs the Chabad of the Virgin Islands, but also in Texas and Louisiana. Congratulations to Sam and Ashley Langleben on your award this evening, and for helping to ensure that tonight is a clean sweep for the Canadians. It really doesn't matter if I'm at a Chabad Gala or a hockey tournament. I typically root for Team Canada. So congrats to you, and thank you. And an enormous congratulations to Rabbi Levi and Carol. This spectacular evening is truly a tribute to the community that you've built and to the work that you do all year long. We appreciate you, and we wish you many, many more years of continued growth and success. We meet tonight at a time where we find ourselves at a crossroads in Jewish history. Take the story of Yuli Edelstein. Yuli was born in Soviet Russia. He grew up to become a street sweeper before moving to Israel, whereupon he went into politics. He rose through the ranks and eventually became the Speaker of the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, and that's a position that he holds today. I heard Yuli address a banquet. It was actually a Chabad banquet a number of years ago, and he told a story of growing up in a place where the practice of Judaism was strictly forbidden. And that prohibition was vigorously enforced by the KGB. Anyway, as a member of the Refuseniks, he, after, of course, no formal Jewish education, managed to get his hands on a pair of tefillin. Tefillin are a holy item, and we put it on we don them when we pray. Eventually, his political activities got him in trouble. He was arrested on trumped-up charges and thrown in jail. And of course, these tefillin, being his prized possession, he tried to smuggle them into the jail with him. So the guards found out, they snickered, they mocked him, and they beat him mercilessly. And they went to pry his tefillin out of his hands, only to find that he wouldn't let go. He hung on with everything he had. And eventually, considering these were KGB thugs who didn't really care, when they were done beating him and they were ready to move on, they left Yuli in his cell, slumped over, bloodied, bones broken, and clutching his precious tefillin against his chest. Now, when he told us that story at that banquet, he looked at, there was a crowd of maybe 5,000 or 6,000 people, and he said, if you think this story makes me sound heroic, I couldn't disagree with you more. In fact, if any one of you were there, you would have done the same thing. And he continues, but let me ask you, in today's world, nobody is prying your tefillin out of your hands. So let me ask, with what urgency are you clinging to them? And that's a good question. And that's relevant for us today. Our Rebbe of blessed memory foresaw this sea change in Jewish history long ago. When the Rebbe assumed leadership of the Chabad movement, this is back in 1951, he used the opportunity of his inaugural address, the famous Basi Laganini, to identify the stark contrast between what was the historical Jew of exile for 2,000 years, a sometimes dark, sometimes seemingly hopeless condition, and he contrasted that to the Jew of today, with whom I think we here identify, where we live in New York City, in peace and prosperity, where we can host a Pioneers Gala in the same venue that Sarah Jessica Parker got married. So when our identity as Jews is no longer imposed upon us, simply a struggle to resist the oppression of some kind of totalitarian regime, when people are clinging on, trying to ensure that there's just one more link on that hallowed chain of generations that stretches back 4,000 years. But when we define our identity for ourselves, when we determine what our Jewish character is going to be, then what do we do? So I think that we sitting here today, and this community which we've come to celebrate, that serves as a model for how to answer that question. It's not all that we're exactly the same. For sure, we know we come from different backgrounds. We have different interests, industries, stages in life. We have different political affiliations, root for different sports teams. I think Sam is a Montreal Canadiens fan, and the fact that we're being honored on the same night is ironic. But within all that variation, we are one. And it's precisely that diversity, where each person contributes his or her own individuality, that's where we draw our strength. In addition to the social element and camaraderie, young Jews in New York City come together around common causes, both observing the ancient rituals of our Jewish faith, whether it's studying our Torah, sitting around a joyous table for a Shabbat meal, or if it's coordinating our activities to impact our city, packing boxes of food that are set to go out to the hungry, visiting a hospital to see a patient who may not have a loved one living nearby, or even a kind word and a gentle smile to someone who looks like they might be having a tough day. This is a community where I'm proud to call myself a member. So when it's time for us to tell our story, how did we live our days? When it was no longer precarious to be a Jew publicly, what did we do? Did we voluntarily abandon that treasured heritage, walk away from our proverbial tefillin? Of course not. We had the vision, leadership, and marching orders of our dear Rebbe to respond to Yuli Edelstein's challenge. We built a vibrant community where we cherish our Judaism and we make sure that we're a blessing to everyone we encounter. So when we tell our children our story, may we inspire them to carry on this legacy for many generations into the future. So l'chaim, l'chaim, ahead of the new year, may we all be granted a favorable inscription in the book of life. And just before I sit down, I believe I know better than to get between you folks and the premium bar. Actually, Owen and Haley, can you guys just come up for a sec? Because there's a very special young lady here today, and she has a birthday coming up, and it would be really, really nice if everybody in this room, Owen and Haley are going to lead us in a singing of happy birthday, and we have a cake. Actually, Arabella, you want to come up? And she's a very, very special little girl, so if everybody sings, it'll make her feel as special as she really is. So, Haley, you hold the mic. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Arabella. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you all very much. Enjoy your evening.